Good evening, you are joining with Business Today on ChannelEye. On this program, as you are well aware, what we do is we invite a guest. Now, this guest turns out to be someone who is very special or someone who is in the business sphere who has a lot of knowledge so that we can add knowledge to existing knowledge about business. And stay tuned with us to see who this personality is, and also stay with us to be inspired today on Business Today. Sri Lanka's economy is heading towards a service-based economy. We are trying to give as many services as we can from the country rather than exporting goods out of the country. So in this process, IT plays a very major role when it comes to producing certain softwares and services and distributing them among the world out there. So today's guest is also someone who is connected to that. Also, there's something very special tale about him, but we'll see who this personality is and come back to the studio. Sudaraka Jayashanka is the CEO of Tech Ventures and Managing Director of Chakra Consulting Asia Pacific, who is a highly focused, result-oriented industry leader. With over 22 years of experience in the industry, he is a veteran of managing complex IT solutions and digital transformations for enterprises and entrepreneurs across a diverse range of business verticals. Experienced in digital transformation, Sudaraka's knowledge spans a number of areas from software architecture and design, software development and design, to IT infrastructure, project management and product development. Sudaraka is a remarkable intellect with an outstanding ability to analyze and transform the digital world. Yes, exactly. So we have Mr. Sudaraka Jayashanka, the founder and the CEO of Tech Ventures Private Limited, joining with us today. And also, when I mentioned about earlier what the specialty of this personality is, that he's not someone new to Rupavahini Corporation. It's actually someone who has frequented Rupavahini Corporation. If you remember back then, Oshin, he used to dub as Oshin's brother back then, and also he was also in Malgudi days.
That's right.
Correct? That's great. So great to have you back, I would say. So welcome back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. So you're coming today as the CEO and a founder of a great company because you have been venturing the Tech Ventures. From a CEO's point of view, let's speak about the entrepreneurship and IT as a snapshot of the country. What do you see all these years?
Well, I mean, if you look at the entire IT industry for the past decade, I think there had been a phenomenal growth in the industry. I mean, if you look at the entire growth, there had been nearly about 300% growth if you look at the entire industry.
Within which year range, you would say?
I'm talking about from year 2010 up to now.
Right.
So if you specifically look at the last 3 years, in the revenue perspective, which the ICT industry brought to the country, in 2018 it was 850 million, and in 2019 nearly 900 million, and 2020 it was 971 million, despite the fact that we hit the COVID.
Okay.
So you can see that how much business that Sri Lanka is receiving with the challenges that we had. And the other fact is that like the people that they know that they don't know probably is that we had 8% year-on-year growth throughout all these years, and it was 0.7% contributor to the GDP of the country. So if you look at the entire thing, IT industry as a whole had been a phenomenal growth, and it is aimed to grow more for the next coming years.
Right. So speaking about Tech Ventures, now we know that you have a very entertaining side of your life when it comes to your dubbing and also your voice artist lives. But currently, putting all aside, is to speaking about the IT sector and also Tech Ventures. Now, this company you're heading has been growing for the past, I would say growing because it has been growing, obviously, for the past 5-6 years. You celebrated the 5th anniversary.
Yes, we celebrated the 5th anniversary this year of the company.
Yes, congratulations from all of us.
Thank you.
So when it comes to that, what kind of services do you provide from your company?
Right. So there are two main services that we provide if you take the entire IT spectrum. So we do mainly product engineering, and then we do enterprise solutions. So when you say enterprise solutions, there are a lot of financial institutes that we support with. This is in terms of supporting them with latest technologies that are upcoming, if you look at, I'm just going to a little bit of technical jargon now.
Yes, please, that's fine.
So what happens in the world, if you look at it now,
Yeah.
if you look at, we mainly work with a lot of financial institutions, companies like banks and other financial institutions and insurance companies. They understand with the COVID challenges and other challenges that we see, the only way to go forward is that opening up their business to innovation. Right. So in order to do this, you need to open up their internal functionalities to outside world, so that external companies, innovative IT companies, can build solutions on top of that. So you need to do that by opening APIs. We call them APIs. These are functionalities that can be accessed through external parties, and we predominantly work with these kind of technologies. So mainly it is API management. We work with identity solutions. So identity solutions are like when you interact with third parties and partners and all that, it is paramount importance that you ensure that the people who are connecting to your organizations are the correct people, and their identities has to be governed and all that. So we work on those kind of solutions. And the other main solutions that we work with is we connect systems together. So if you take a large organization, there are multiple different systems, right? So nowadays the success is measured end of the day by the customer satisfaction and the delight, right? So if you are a customer, you're coming into somebody's website or a functionality, or end of the day, if you're using an app, your experience has to be seamless. And the end user, the end customer wouldn't know what is going behind the curtain. And this is what we do. We make sure we connect all these systems together to work seamlessly. So that is one part of the services that we provide.
So something like, so when you swipe a card, or when you purchase something online, or when you do anything online, there are a bunch of people always behind making sure that you get the best experience.
Absolutely,
and that's what you do.
Absolutely. So for an example, if you say that you are logging into internet banking, you just need to key in your password, username, and then you are logging into the system. But behind the scenes, there are so many events that is happening just by entering your username, password, and clicking that button. We need to first check you're the right person. We have to check which location you're actually accessing this system. I mean, there are systems that if you're geographically in a different location accessing internet banking, then there are alerts fired. Okay, this is a person regularly accessing from Sri Lanka, but now today he's logging from Kenya. So we need to alert that system. This can be a fraudulent attack, and there's so many orchestration of events that are happening, which we need to kind of really, because this is what we do. So we look into all these things, make sure that the right balance of all the systems are maintained. So that's one part of the organization, what we do in terms of the services. The other one is the product engineering. So we have a team of expertise who uses artificial intelligence and machine learning. This is one of the cutting edge technologies that it's been there, but now it's become a norm. Everybody builds solutions. They always go for machine learning kind of things. Why that is important is that you go shopping, right? You go and purchase certain items, right? And the systems remember what you purchased. And when you come next time, it starts to recommend you on certain products. And you might be wondering how you're getting these recommendations. And
exactly.
It's
a very common concept.
Exactly, right? It's exactly. So it's done by concepts like machine learning and artificial intelligence, right? When you log into the app or a website, we know who that person is, right, based on certain data that we keep, and all this data and the behavior is being analyzed, and we know exactly what we need to propose to him. So psychologically, without you even knowing, you are being pushed with the product. I mean, of course, you know how Facebook works and all that thing. So these things we apply to our solutions as well. I mean, not only for recommendation, but there are a whole lot of other use cases and scenarios that we use. So collectively, this is what we basically build. And if you look at the organization, we have the main engineering team in Sri Lanka, and then we have another company, we have another entity of TechVentures in Nairobi, Kenya, and we recently opened another office in Adelaide, Australia. So these are the three entities that we actually operate.
5 years, and you have 3 offices in 3 different countries.
Yeah,
continents,
absolutely.
I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's brilliant. That's great to see. So you said something very scary about creating personas and having your digital persona. It's kind of scary for those who are the layman, I would say, because when you see, okay, the computers know everything that we don't do.
Absolutely, yeah.
Will it come to a point that one day you go home and suddenly everything that you might want to have is already at home?
Exactly. I mean, that's the world that we're actually moving toward, isn't it? Like it's inevitable. The technology is inevitable. Convenience is always there, and that is what people are actually aiming for. So, that's what technology does.
Yep. If you tell the fridge, sometimes the fridge might even order cabbages when you come back home from office.
Absolutely.
Right. So let's go back all the way back to 2016. You got into IT, I suppose, back then, or was it before? How has it been? Getting into IT has been as a newbie.
I've been in the industry for the last 22 years, I believe.
Right.
So I've been working for many IT organizations overseas as well as in Sri Lanka.
What I meant to say as an organization, you're coming into a competitive environment, but that is also sort of motivated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is it like?
Well, it wasn't, I would say, couple of advantages that I had was that before starting Tech Ventures, I was a CTO for a company, so throughout, probably with the pinnacle of my career, right? So one of the advantages that I had was that I've seen everything, like being in the industry, working with many organizations. There was a whole lot of lessons learned.
That's right.
So for me to start the company, I knew exactly what I needed to do, right? But again, the biggest problem was the uncertainty, right? Because you leave a job and you have some savings, and then you choose to be your own boss. You start your own company, and then you're taking a big challenge, right? Because you don't know what is going to happen.
Yeah.
And you could go back, but if you're going back, what's the point of starting something, right? So two challenges that I had was the first one was the uncertainty, but then again I had the confidence because of the learnings that I had, and I was able to build something unique with all this learning. So those two were one of the advantages, the great advantages that I had. But coming to the industry, few challenges that I faced, the real challenges that I faced, initially you need to build a team, you have to hire some people, and you need to kind of land on a good project or an account, right, that pays your bills, because now you're running with your own money. Right? And you need to hire some people, and then you have to start building something.
You'd also convince the people
exactly to join, right? Because you're a very small entity, and if somebody is to join your company, you need to be really convincing. So luckily I had a bit of a background, like being a CTO and all that. I knew some people and all that. Of course, I'm really happy and thankful for all the people who joined my organization. But that being said, it is not really easy. But a couple of things that we did initially, if you are to make your name on the map, right? You just need to make sure that what you need to really embark on, right? There are two ways that you can become an entrepreneur and start a business, right? First, you should probably have an IP, right? Intellectual property that nobody else have, and then you have to be a genius in order to build something like that. And you take it to the world, and then everybody is really amazed about it and all that.
7 billion people, you have to have novel idea.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And it's like 1 to a million chance that you get succeeded in something like that. And of course we accept the fact we are not that we are not geniuses, so whatever it is, right? But then the other side of the things is that you can also become an entrepreneur on the services business, right? Which is the technology that you already know, and then you could actually build a team, because there is always a need in the world for technology, right?
That's right,
It's not essentially has to be an IP that you're trying to sell, but there is always a need for existing technology, right? People are always looking for people who are capable of building a solution. So that is the path I actually chose, right? So I work with so many engineers, and I get a couple of guys and say, okay, let's build some solutions. It's not a product as such, because it's really hard to go down that route, in my opinion, because at that particular circumstances, I mean, if you try to build a solution or a product and all that, we actually didn't have enough, we couldn't afford, like building a product and marketing it, because it's a huge effort. So what we did was that we started building some solutions. These solutions can be can actually expedite another organization's software development process, a methodology or whatever it is, right? So that's the path we actually took. So we got some engineers, we built some frameworks, and with those frameworks, what we were trying to do is that we actually went through the networking that I had, I mean the previous networking, previous people that I knew, and said that, okay, we have a good team and we can help your team with an extension. So we can act as an extension to your team and maybe add some value.
So like one entire process was replaced by what your company
Yes,
does.
exactly.
Right.
So their main engineering team. So this is the three waves we are talking about. Initially, this outsourcing wave we had in Sri Lanka, right, back in 2006, 2010, that sort of thing. And then after that, we became product engineering, and now it's the startup ecosystem, and things are changing like crazy.
Exactly.
But we were in between product engineering and outsourcing kind of thing when we started, and that really worked well. And we talked to a lot of people, and then we start. The number one thing that we did was we start to build trust. And then eventually we got quite a lot of feedback and business, and that's how we actually navigated the opportunity.
Brilliant. Right, so that's the story. That's a big story for 5 years, I would say. Like you're cramming all that in and you're successful now, and it's not just you, but your company is also overall successful. But people have this misconception, because when you look at companies, not companies, I would say solutions like what we have provided to London Stock Exchange. It's a Sri Lankan software that are running there. It's like a Sri Lankan company has built it, and we have sold it to the UK. So they are using our software. But Sri Lankan Stock Exchange is not using our own software. Why would that be? Would there be anything to mistrust about Sri Lankan products?
Well, it's a bit of a difficult question to answer. I mean, this is a very good example, if you say, right? I mean, initially, of course, LSEG, previously known as MIT, who was really good at building trading software, stock trading software, and then eventually LSEG understood the beauty of the solution, and they acquired it, and now they are running it as LSEG Technology, which is a complete solution company who sells the trading platform for other stock exchanges in the world. I mean, imagine that. That's
and they're here,
and it's absolutely brilliant. But I'm not entirely sure why the Sri Lankan companies or Sri Lankan entities, such as Colombo Stock Exchange, not using your own solution. I mean, that could be one example. I mean, if you know WSO2 as a company who is remarkable, and the entire London transportation system is running the WSO2's backbone, Transport for London.
And they're also here.
They're also here. I mean, this is where WSO2 was born. And you can get so many examples like that. I mean, one of the biggest examples is two of my teams right now. We are working on digitization of government of Morocco. We are working in digitization of
the entire government
of Uganda. Whoa. So these two projects are remarkable because we are connecting the entire government agencies together to bring digital e-services for the citizens, and this is going to make their lives so much easier
and efficient as a government.
Absolutely, right. It's just click of a button and you have all the services and all that thing. I mean, the question is that why can't we do it here? Because we are building it right here in Sri Lanka.
That's a good question. Right. So connecting to that, what kind of challenges do you face within the industry in terms of living and having to brew it within the country?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest problems that the entire IT industry itself identifies is the support from the government. It's in terms of support, what I would say is that when you run a business, you need to connect with so many government agencies, right?
That's right.
I mean, at least we are a company that is operated directly from Sri Lanka. I mean, it's the company started by me and all that. But imagine the companies, an investor who's coming from outside of Sri Lanka, trying to establish a business here, right? And they have to go through the BOI and the entire process of, registering the company and going through and all that things, right? If you know, it's a fun fact that there is a World Bank index called Ease of Doing Business, right? And Sri Lanka is ranked at 99th of that place out of 170 countries.
Right.
Whereas countries like Kenya in 50s,
Oh, wow.
if you take Malaysia, they are in 12, which means those countries is really easy to do the business with. I mean, I have the first-hand experience of that when I established the company in Kenya, when I established the company in Australia. It just took about 2 days to set up the company and do all the processes.
That's a funny
so
story.
it's yeah, so things like this. I strongly believe the interconnection of all the government agencies, right? When you want to start a company, from the ROC, the Registrar of Company, to your IRD, Inland Revenue Department, and maybe BOI or whatever it is. If these all are interconnected, it'll become the entrepreneur's life is really easier. Like you file your taxations or file your returns and all that. If it is a seamless process, things would have really become easier. So government support for this, making this life easier is one of the crucial factors, definitely for the ICT sectors to be successful. So that's one of the biggest challenges that we probably see. And the other thing is that there will be a lot of startups coming in, because the 2020, the target of the entire ICT industry in Sri Lanka for 2024 to be $3 billion industry, which is massive, right? I mean, as a small entity with 22 million population in a country like us, 3 billion revenue for ICT is massive.
And that's one of the biggest reasons why all these restrictions have to be sort of eased.
Exactly. So in order for us to do that, right, you need to make sure that your FDI is signed. You need to make sure that whatever the startups that we are coming up here, and they have direct access to those venture capitals or private equity firms in order to get the funding here. And we have to make sure that you open the doors for them by taking certain restrictions away. There are certain proposals that have been made, and one thing that I saw in the previous budget, the last budget, the company registration process that had made brief and all that. So that's a good sign. I mean, at least we see that some things are happening.
Yes,
right?
there's efforts and so on.
Exactly, right. And also there are some in the BOI regulations, there are some restricted industries that the investors can't invest here, right? And there could be huge opportunities for, if you take, I mean, just talking about betting industry and all that, right? I don't think they are not allowed to operate here, whatever it is. But in terms of ICT, there are a whole lot of technology that we can build from here, and if you allow certain restrictions to be lifted, I mean, there could be a whole lot of investors actually coming to Sri Lanka. And these are the things that we face. On top of that, what we see is one of the primary challenges even right now we are facing is the talent pool, because we have a good talent pool, but right now they are leaving. So that's a big problem that we are facing, and I'm just sometimes scratching my head how to handle this situation, because
Either it was all because of the salary scales, no?
Well, not really. No? It's just a panic situation, I believe. In my personal opinion, they might have different other opinions, others might have, but I believe it's a panic situation that because of the uncertain political environment of the country and uncertainty of the economy, people are trying to leave the country for better opportunities and all that, which leaves our industry at stake. So that's one of the challenges that we see. So we can address these, through so many other means, like how to produce more and more, IT graduates or IT capable people and all that from the universities itself. I mean, I haven't seen that a lot of entrepreneurship programs introduced into universities. So these are the things that we can.
So these are the key points that need to be addressed.
Absolutely,
when it comes to, because it's not just the lifting of taxation or anything, but you have to start from the beginning, where you have to nurture the next generation that is skillful for this task.
Exactly.
Brilliant. All right. So thank you so much, Sudaraka Jayashanka, for joining in today. We had him as the CEO and the founder of Tech Venturas joining in to speak about the emerging IT industry of the country and the things that they have to face in terms of challenges when it comes to establishing a company that is successful, just like Tech Venturas. So thank you so much for joining in once again.
Thank you very much, Farina.
And for our viewers, we will be coming back next week. Have a good night.